After 20 long years without a smile, this millionaire discovered a life-changing song that transformed everything. Jake Thompson stood frozen under a canopy of golden leaves, his ruggedly handsome face sharply contrasting the bright autumn colors swirling around him. The community harvest festival reminded him of a time when laughter echoed through his childhood home, before riches replaced the warmth of family. And yet, despite the success that adorned his life like a fine suit, a gnawing emptiness hollowed his chest. 2 decades had slipped by since he last smiled, genuinely 20 years since he felt that simple joy that came free of charge. As he walked past the vibrant hay bales and the enticing aroma of roasted corn, memories snatched at him. He caught glimpses of familiar faces that once admired him as a hero, now shadowed by disappointment and resentment. Disparaging whispers followed him like noisy ghosts, relaying the unspoken truth. His meteoric rise was followed by a steep decline in connection with those who mattered most, his own family. Each smile from the townsfolk felt like a jarring reminder of the love he sacrificed on his relentless pursuit of success. His mother, a frail silhouette, stood behind an old table laden with homemade pies. The sight of her stirred emotions buried deep within. She was alone, just as he felt, even among the wealth, the high-rise offices, and the luxuries that surrounded him. Memories surged, family dinners where stories wove their way like a patchwork quilt, now frayed and tattered with the miles that had come between them. The guilt surged like a tide, threatening to drown him. He longed for connection, for that warm embrace of understanding and forgiveness only a mother could provide. It was then he wandered into a small, dusty antique shop. Feeling foolish, he browsed the shelves filled with memories until a faded vinyl record caught his eye. Picking it up sent a shiver through him, a melody that once filled their home on lazy Sunday afternoons when his father would strum the guitar. As he listened, each note wrapped around him, swaddling him in warmth, casting aside the cold distance he had built. The soulful tune tugged at his heart, rekindling emotions he believed he had buried. Tears pricked at his eyes, blurring the moment, reminding him of the sacrifices made for the sake of ambition. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As darkness fell over the festival, Jake stood in the quiet of his mansion, the echoes of that song resonating within him like the call of a distant drum. The elegant decor felt hollow now. The walls, although adorned with trophies, closed in on him. He knew the time had come not just to confront the shadows of his past, but to embrace them. The internal battle roared fiercely, pitting the relentless drive for success against the soft whispers of familial duty and compassion. For the first time in years, he weighed what success meant to him. Was it measured by wealth or by the connections made along the way? He felt a stirring hope, an ember igniting in his chest. The ghosts of his choices loomed large, yet he could feel the breaking dawn of transformation beckoning him. Would he dare to step beyond the gilded cage of isolation, to confront the estranged woman still guarding the family he left behind? The aching question lingered in the crisp night air: could he redefine success as something richer than gold? Jake took a deep breath, pulling in the crisp night air that smelled faintly of firewood and baked goods from the festival. The music still echoed in his mind, buoying his spirit as he contemplated his next move. His heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and fear. Would he truly have the courage to face his mother after all these years? He recalled the last time they spoke. Harsh words flung like daggers in anger, a chasm of hurt and disbelief separating them. He had sworn he would never return, convinced success would shield him from the pain of his past. Yet here he was, caught in a vulnerability he hadn't felt in ages. The vinyl record lingered in his mind, whispering secrets of reconciliation and healing. As if on autopilot, he grabbed his coat and stepped out into the cool night. Each stride toward the festival felt monumental, like bounding across a tightrope suspended above years of neglect. The festival was winding down, lights flickering on and off like stars dimming before dawn, but laughter still echoed in the air, carrying with it the remnants of joy. Arriving at the pie table, Jake hesitated, heart racing. His mother looked up, her eyes lighting up with surprise and then dimming into uncertainty. Time had etched deep lines on her face, yet she wore a grace that spoke of resilience. "Jake." Her voice was a hesitant whisper, as if she couldn't quite believe he was standing there. "Mom." He struggled to find the right words. It felt as if a dam had breached, and the flood of emotions he kept at bay crashed over him. "I've missed you." A brief flicker of disbelief passed over her features, followed by a softening that unraveled the tension in his heart. "You could have called." There was a sharpness in her words, tempered by a deeper pain. "I know. I'm so sorry." The vulnerability in his voice surprised him, but it felt necessary. "I've been lost in my own world for too long." She didn't respond right away, just shook her head slightly, a gesture tangled in hurt and longing. As the weight of unspoken words hung between them, he pulled the record from his pocket. "I found this today," he said softly, holding it out as if it were a fragile piece of glass. "It reminded me of happier times." Her eyes widened. The slightest hint of tenderness crept into her expression. Perhaps that too could bridge the gap between them. "Your father," she began, emotion breaking her voice. Jake felt a lump rise in his throat, unable to contain his own memories of laughter and music intertwined with love and loss. Before they could unravel the past, the loud voice of a festival announcer broke through, calling for a dance competition. It was a distraction, but it also illuminated a path forward. "Let us dance," he suggested impulsively, the words tumbling out before he could watch them take shape. Her laughter was cautious but indicative of the glimmer of hope he'd been yearning for. "You think you can still lead?" As she reached for his hand, warmth surged through him. The dance would be simple, but it was a beginning, a first step toward healing, but not far away. Shadows still loomed, and he knew their shared history wouldn't fade easily. Would this be enough to mend their hearts? Uncertainty lingered like a heavy fog, thick and suffocating. As the music began, Jake held his breath, anticipating the moment they'd step into their dance. Could they rewrite their story? And then there was the deeper question: could he learn to embrace the life he had left behind? The moment when he grasped her hand firmly approached, yet doubt still tangled in the air like fallen leaves. What would become of them as they danced under the muted stars? As the music swelled, Jake felt the warmth of his mother's hand in his. It was a familiar yet foreign sensation, a spark of connection tinged with years of memories and missed moments. He started to lead, tentative at first, the rhythm guiding his steps. With each sway, he stole glances at her, trying to decipher the emotions flickering across her face. Her eyes sparkled under the string lights, the softness in her gaze hinting at forgiveness, but the remnants of hurt lingered like a whisper on the wind. It wasn't just about dancing, it was about reclaiming what had been lost. "Remember when we used to dance in the living room?" Jake ventured, trying to break the spell of silence that lingered around them. She smiled, that same smile he had almost forgotten, the one that could light up the darkest rooms. "You had 2 left feet, but your spirit made up for it." They laughed, the sound an echo of a simpler time. He could feel the tension in her body easing, and with each turn they took, the years of resentment began to dissolve, if only for a moment. But just as he began to feel anchored in this fleeting connection, a sudden movement caught his eye. A man pushed through the crowd, his expression tight, eyes searching. Jake's heart sank, he recognized the man instantly. It was Stephen, his mother's new friend. He had always seen Stephen as an intruder, someone who filled the void Jake had left behind. "Mom!" Stephen called out, his voice slicing through the music. "We need to talk." Her face faltered, hesitance creeping in, robbing the joy from the moment they were sharing. Jake felt an iron weight heavy in his chest. What did Stephen want now? Couldn't they just have one night free from complications? "Just a minute." She shot back, but Jake could hear the apprehension swirling in her voice. He wanted to pull her closer, to shield her from whatever news Stephen bore, but he didn't want to ruin this reclaimed moment. With a deep breath, he held her gaze, willing her to stay with him a little longer. "Let us not let him ruin this," he whispered gently. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, the warmth in their embrace becoming a flicker of tension. But then she nodded, and for that moment, it felt like they were suspended in time. The song shifted to something softer, something tender, and Jake found the courage to spin her slowly. They moved as if the world outside had faded away, a cocoon of hope woven around them, holding back the storm, and then came the inevitable. Stephen was closer now, standing just on the edge of the dance floor, waiting. The unsaid tension grew thicker, a palpable force weighing down on them. "I can't ignore him forever," she murmured, as if reading his thoughts. "No," Jake replied, urgency in his voice. "But we can tackle this together. Just give me a chance to help you share your burden." As the last note faded, Jake felt the moment shift. His hand trembled slightly around hers, uncertainty creeping in again. Would she step back into their past or take a brave step forward? Just then, the festival lights shifted, casting a cascade of golden hues, and in the dim glow, he saw her glance back toward Stephen. The choice hung heavily in the air. Could she break free from the shadows of her present and step into a future he hoped they could build together? The music faded away, leaving only the sound of their breaths mingling in the chilly night. "Mom, what do you want?" he pressed, his heart racing. He needed to know, could this moment of dance lead to more than memories? But as her gaze fell to the ground, Jake felt the tension return. What awaited them on the other side of this dance? Jake's heart raced as he waited for his mother's answer, each second stretching into an eternity. Her eyes fixed on the ground, overwhelmed with words unspoken. He could almost hear the internal battle she waged, caught between loyalty to Stephen and the unbreakable bond they shared. He tightened his grip on her hand, gently lifting her chin so their eyes met. "Mom, please," he urged, his voice barely above a whisper. "Just look at me." When she finally did, he saw pain mixed with something else, a glimmer of hope, perhaps. "Jake," she started, but the words caught in her throat, the weight of the past clawing at the edges of their moment. The music around them shifted, a quiet melody drifting through the air, reflective and melancholic. It mirrored the turmoil inside her. Jake felt lost, like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, daring her to take that step forward with him. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he felt Stephen's presence looming closer, invading their space. The man's face twisted into a frown, a stark contrast to the soft moments Jake had hoped to cultivate with his mother. Jake's instinct sparked, he could feel the tension coiling tighter in the air. "Mom, you have to know I'm here for you," Jake said, forcing his gaze back on her. "You don't have to face him alone." "Jake, I don't want to hurt him," she replied, her voice trembling. "He's been good to me." "Good doesn't he mean right?" Jake insisted, a fire igniting within him. "You deserve to be happy." "We both do. But not if it's the wrong kind of happy." "I know," but her words tumbled out like pebbles, each one heavier than the last. The collective murmur of the festival crowd began to fade, leaving them in a bubble of intimacy. The soft glow of the string lights flickered around them as if embracing their emotional standoff. Jake could see the fear in her eyes, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. And yet, that same fear had birthed the connection between them tonight, reigniting a spark he thought was gone forever. "What if this is our chance, Mom?" he pressed gently. "What if we could finally start over?" He watched her struggle, her thoughts dancing behind her eyes, and for the first time in years, he felt a real chance to bridge the divide that had formed. She let out a sigh, and in that breath, there was a shift. A moment of clarity sparked, illuminating the dim scuffles of doubt. Then, unexpectedly, a loud cheer erupted from the nearby crowd. People had started to clap as someone stepped onto the stage, drawing attention away from their fragile moment. Stephen, caught off guard, glanced toward the commotion. "See?" Jake seized the opportunity, tugging her slightly closer. "You can choose to walk away now. We can walk away from all of this." He trailed off, his heart pleading with her to see his vision. Now. She echoed, her voice barely a whisper above the applause. Her hesitation lingered, a crack between decisions waiting to be filled. Yes, right now. She glanced back at Stephen, whose expression was a mixture of confusion and impatience. He stepped closer again, but Jake interjected, "No more letting anyone dictate how we feel." Jake held his breath, every word resting on the edge of what could unfold. Would she choose to step toward him? Toward hope? And just when it felt like she might lean into the light, something caught her attention. A whispered conversation between two guests nearby, a mention of something she'd long buried, something unforgivable about her past. "Jake, I don't know if I can," she finally breathed, the moment ready to slip away once more. "Make a choice, Mom. For you, for us before it's too late." As his words faded into the night, he realized that the dawn of a new beginning hung delicately in the balance, waiting, just like his hope. Would she grasp it, or would Stephen pull her back into the dark? And in that fervent silence, the haunting question loomed larger than ever: would the rhythm of their dance find new life, or were they doomed to repeat the past? Jake's heart thudded painfully in his chest as he watched his mother's eyes flicker between the remnants of her past and the uncertain future his words offered. Stephen's shadow hovered nearer, and Jake could feel her reluctance fracturing him more with every passing second. The festival lights bobbed above, but all he could see was the looming darkness around her. "Mom," he said, his tone dipping low, desperate yet steady. "It's just us. We can find our way back together." For a moment, she looked at him as if weightless, the sounds of the festival dulled into silence, creating a cocoon around them. He could see hope dawn, battling against the fear tangled in her heart. But then, Stephen cleared his throat loudly, breaking the fragile bubble. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice thick with irritation. Jake bristled, resentment spiking within him. "Yes, there is," he shot back, surprising even himself with the ferocity. "You're the problem." Stephen's brows knitted together, incredulity mixing with anger. "Excuse me. I think it's time for you to back off." "Why?" Jake countered, stepping forward, unwilling to cower. "Because you fear the truth. Look at her, she's drowning in everything you've built around her." His mother remained frozen, her hands clutching his tightly as if grounding herself. She seemed torn between the man she had come to depend on and the one who could set her free. "Jake, just stop," she finally interjected, her voice breaking just above a whisper. "Please, this isn't helping." The disappointment crashed against Jake like a wave, but he refused to let it pull him under. "You want to keep pretending everything is fine?" he asked, his voice cracking with fervor. "You shouldn't have to live this way." Stephen took a step closer, an intimidating presence that demanded silence. "You're a kid. You don't understand." "I understand enough." Jake shot back, the words spilling out fueled by urgency. "You're not good for her. You're just a safe choice." His mother winced, the bluntness of his words striking her deeply. Jake's stomach twisted, hoping she wouldn't recoil, afraid she wouldn't see the truth. Silence hung thick in the air, pierced only by a distant cheer from the stage. He knew they needed action now. "Mom, I know you're afraid," he pleaded, searching her face for a flicker of understanding. "Afraid of losing him, of what could happen next. But what about losing yourself? Just think, what if you could rediscover joy? You taught me that it's never too late for another chance." The flickers of a smile began to crease her lips, a haunting reminder of happier times. For a moment, Jake thought he saw the fight return to her eyes, but it dimmed as her gaze shifted to Stephen. He's good to me, Jake," she murmured weakly. "Good isn't always enough, Mom," he implored, desperation tightening his chest. "It can keep you safe, but it's not the same as happy." A tension wound tighter as eyes darted between them. Jake's heart stilled at the thought of her letting go of everything they had just begun to rebuild. "You deserve the kind of happiness that makes you want to sing, not just survive. Tears pooled in her eyes, the thread of determination almost unraveling. Just as she seemed poised between the past and a possible future, the music swelled into a new, vibrant beat. It mingled with the crowd, urging her forward as the world brightened, promising something different. Jake held his breath, willing her to move, to choose him and the chance he offered. Would she? As the applause echoed and the sun dipped low, joy mixed with uncertainty poised on the edge of their moment. The heartbeat of the festival swelled around them, and he could feel the weight shift almost smaller, almost lighter, and then, just before she reached for him, Stephen's grip tightened on her other arm. Let us go. The command was final, leaving Jake's world reeling as time stretched again. Mom! He blurted out, the panic flaring. Don't leave me. In that heartbeat, they all stood suspended, three souls caught in a web of decisions. For Jake, it was a moment of truth, regret, and unfathomable hope. Could she defy him this time, or would she let Stephen lead her away again? And as their eyes locked one last time, he couldn't shake the one desperate thought: was this truly the moment they'd been waiting for, or was it slipping through their fingers? Jake felt as if the world had narrowed down to just the three of them, the chaos of the festival fading into the background. He could see the faintest hint of a decision flickering in his mother's eyes. But then, the grip of Stephen's hand tightened, as if binding her to a past that felt heavier than the glow of festival lights around them. Mom, please. Jake's voice was shaky, raw. He wasn't sure what he would do if she didn't move. He needed her to choose him, needed her to recognize that freedom was not just possible, it was waiting. But Stephen's smirk betrayed his confidence, a man comfortable in the power he wielded over her. Come on, dear. We came to enjoy the festival, remember? Don't let him ruin everything. The dismissive tone grated on Jake's nerves, igniting a fierce surge of anger within him. Ruin? Jake laughed bitterly, an echo of disbelief. You think what she's living is enjoyment? You don't even see how she's withering away, Stephen. You're blind to it. The words echoed behind him like a blast from a cannon, aiming straight for the core of their fragile scene. His mother's expression shifted, clear frustration crossing her face like a storm in the sky. Jake, you don't understand what this means to me. You need to respect my choices. Respect? It's not about respect. It's about looking out for you. He shouted, each word a battle cry. The crowd perked, curious eyes flicking between them, the tension palpable. Their intimate struggle had become a spectacle. Jake felt exposed, his vulnerability out for everyone to see. But it didn't matter. He couldn't hold back now. Mom, please. You taught me that love is about happiness. You can't trade that for comfort. You deserve more than this hollow exchange. The fervor in his voice lingered in the air like smoke from fireworks. A ripple of gasps echoed from the crowd, an unspoken agreement flowing unbidden among the onlookers. They were witnesses, he reminded himself. They were all rooting for her. He's scared of you finding your voice again, Jake added, softening his tone, looking deep within her gaze. Scared of losing control, of losing you. Love should never feel like a cage. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. For just a moment, he felt the once firm grasp of her hand loosen slightly. It was slight but enough to see a crack forming in Stephen's facade. Jake continued, you've always said you want me to be brave, Mom. To fight for what I believe in. So, I'm fighting for you now. Just take a step back and look at what your life could be. There was a pause. Breathless, Jake held on to the fragile thread that bound them together. He felt as though he stood at the edge of something monumental, ready to leap. Could it be their moment of truth? Stephen shifted, irritation etching deep lines across his brow. Enough of this. Let us go, now. He tugged harder, his composure shattering as he started to pull her away. But before she could comply, Jake pressed closer. What's it going to be, Mom? Will you choose the safe path, or will you step into the life you deserve? His voice trembled, shaking with the weight of his plea. With that, silence enveloped them. The festival paused, the music dimmed, leaving only the thundering of his heart and the anxious whispers of the crowd. The air felt electric as her gaze darted between Stephen and Jake. Jake could almost see her internal battle warring within, the need for comfort against the yearning for liberation. Just then, someone in the crowd shouted, "Let her go." The words ignited an electric reaction through the onlookers, a chorus of support rising around them. Jake's heart raced. The crowd's energy surged like a wave washing over him. This was it, a chance. He could feel her wavering, the tiniest tremor of resolve building within. "Mom!" He breathed, the edge of hope sharp enough to pierce through the chaos. "You are stronger than this. I believe in you." Her lips parted, and everything hung in the balance. Would she break free? Would she finally step into the light? As her gaze turned towards Stephen, Jake held on to that moment of possibility, praying for an answer that could change everything. But just then, the festival's lively music erupted again, drowning out the whispers, shaking the ground beneath them. Jake's stomach dropped. Would she go with him or turn back to the darkness? The moment broke like glass, the revelry of the festival crashing back in, almost mocking the intensity of their confrontation. Jake felt the rush of sound and color swirl around him, but his focus didn't waver. He clung to the fragile hope blooming in his chest like a wildflower breaking through concrete. "Mom, please." His voice sliced through the noise, filled with desperation and a strange, almost painful love. She hesitated, just for an instant, as the crowd's cheers morphed into a dull roar around her. Jake could see her breathing quicken, her eyes flickering between him and Stephen. He could sense her soul reaching out, battling against years of entrapment. Stephen's grip on her arm was ironclad. "We're leaving," he ordered, his voice bordering on panic now, sensing the shift. "You're making a scene." But the tide was turning. More voices from the crowd rose, chanting words of encouragement. "Choose joy. You deserve it." Mixed with "Let her be free." The unity of the crowd felt like a wave of strength propelling Jake's mom closer to making a decision. Jake stepped in closer, not allowing her to be swallowed up by the chaos. "Mom, this is your life. It's not about Stephen or me. It's about you and what you want." The urgency in his tone was palpable, eyes locked onto hers, willing her to see. Tears began to mist in her eyes again, caught in the suffocating core of her heart and mind. She opened her mouth, a hint of a response forming, but nothing came out. Was it fear or something deeper? A moment of realization. "Mom!" he exclaimed, barely able to contain the tremor of emotion in his voice. "Remember when we danced in the kitchen? You taught me to always fight for happiness." It was a memory that had lodged itself in his heart, a flicker of light in the shadows of their shared history, a dance filled with laughter and love. That was freedom. That was you. Jake felt a ripple of energy surge through the crowd, their solidarity proving powerful. Then it came a fleeting flicker of recognition on her face. He saw it, the long-buried spirit, fighting to break free. "You can start again," he urged gently, his voice barely a whisper as if to not shatter the moment. "Change is scary, but staying in this unhappy life is scarier. Choose for yourself now." For a heartbeat, time stopped, and everything quieted. She swayed slightly, like a leaf caught in the breeze, unsure of which way to fall. Stephen, sensing the attention slipping away from him, pressed harder, his voice rising. "This is ridiculous. You're making a fool out of yourself. Let us go now." But the crowd responded like a force of nature, rising up in a cheer. "Let her choose." As if propelled by a force she hadn't felt in years, Jake's mom closed her eyes for a brief second, drawing upon courage hidden deep within her. Jake watched, breath caught in his throat, every second stretching infinitely. Would she break the chains that had bound her for so long? With a sudden burst of resolve, she pulled her arm away from Stephen's grasp. It happened in an instant. The action rang out against the backdrop of fireworks exploding in the night sky, a celebration of newfound courage. But just as hope soared, the unexpected happened. Stephen's face contorted in fury, turning from disbelief to rage in a heartbeat. He lunged forward, desperation and anger merging into one. "Mom!" Jake shouted, recognizing the spark igniting in Stephen's eyes. Time didn't stretch this time, it raced. Would Stephen retaliate, flinging her right back into darkness? Or could Jake's mom finally step into the arena of her own life, free and alive? The crowd held their breath, collectively aware that this moment had the potential to shift everything. The air crackled with tension, filling the space around them as if the very world was holding its breath. Jake's heart pounded in his chest, a chaotic mix of dread and hope coursing through him. Every moment felt critical, everything hinged on what his mom would choose to do next. In that split second, as Stephen lunged, Jake surged forward, an instinctual protector feeling the weight of those 2 decades of disappointment bearing down on him. "Mom!" he yelled again, pushing past the fear that threatened to choke him. She turned, the flicker of defiance igniting in her eyes. For all those years, Jake had watched her diminish under Stephen's relentless control, but now, he was seeing the glimmer of the woman he remembered, the one who laughed freely and danced like no one was watching. With a force that surprised everyone, she stepped back from Stephen and planted her feet firmly on the grass. "No!" Her voice rang out, clear and powerful amidst the chaos. "I want to go with you." The crowd erupted in cheers, the sound spiraling upwards to meet the fireworks that filled the sky with explosions of color. Jake felt the warmth of their support wash over him, every shout and clap wrapping around him like a protective blanket. He glanced at Stephen, who was frozen in disbelief, eyes wide, face a mask of rage and astonishment. "You're making a huge mistake," he spat, his voice laced with venom. "No, the mistake was letting you dictate my life for so long." For the first time, there was a spark of clarity in her tone, a sense of belonging in her words. The crowd roared again, a thunderous wave of support crashing over the scene. Jake watched, proud of her bravery, all the while sensing Stephen's simmering fury. He was a storm about to erupt. "You don't know what you're throwing away," he snarled, stepping toward them with an aggressive stance. But as he advanced, the crowd surged forward as one, blocking his path. "Back off!" shouted a voice from the front, a collective stand shielding his mom from Stephen's wrath. Jake's heart soared. This was not just his fight, it was theirs, too. His mom turned to him, shaking now but defiantly holding her head high. I want to be free, Jake." Her voice wavered, but the determination shone brightly through her fear. Tears streamed down her cheeks, blending with the glittering lights from above. "I've been so afraid to live." And that small admission opened the floodgates. Hope surged through Jake, a bond rekindling between them like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. "Then let us do it together," he whispered, taking her hands in his, squeezing lightly to reassure her. The crowd's energy shifted, morphing from a boiling rage against Stephen to a powerful current of support for his mom's decision. "You go, girl!" someone shouted, laughter bubbling through tears. The atmosphere shifted, unity replaced panic. But before they could fully breathe, Stephen's voice broke in again, sharp like glass. "You think this is over? You'll regret this." Jake turned to face Stephen, feeling adrenaline course through him. "No one regrets finding themselves, Stephen. You'll see." The words hung heavy in the air, and the gravity of the moment settled in around them. As the last fireworks faded into the darkened sky, all eyes were on Jake's mom. It was her moment, and the entire festival stood as witness, a sea of excited anticipation holding them captive. Would she really embrace this change? Would she truly step into a new life with all its uncertainties? The decision was hers, and the stakes were high. As the energy pulsed through the group, Jake's mom glanced around her, taking in the support, inhaling a deep breath that carried the scent of liberation. What would she do with this chance? He could feel it, something was stirring, and it was more than just a choice. It was the beginning of a transformation, a new narrative waiting to unfold. But just as he thought she would speak, the sirens of reality blared in the distance, a reminder that Stephen wasn't finished with this fight. Jake's stomach dropped. Would the consequences be too great? Now that freedom was so close. His eyes met hers, urging her silently to choose wisely and to choose bravely. Jake's heart raced as he watched his mom's expression shift from fear to something much stronger. There was a flicker of rebellion in her eyes, igniting hope in Jake's chest. The sirens wailed louder, threatening to drown out the support from the crowd. But there was something powerful brewing beneath the surface, something that held the potential to change everything. His mom inhaled deeply, her shoulders square as she lifted her chin. "I've spent too long trapped in someone else's story," she declared, her voice fortifying with each word. "It's time for me to write my own." The crowd burst into applause, the sound washing over them like rain on parched earth, but Jake felt a shiver run down his spine as the sirens grew closer. The police would arrive soon, and all of these precious moments of bravery and community could unravel in an instant. "Mom, we need to go," he urged quietly, his gaze darting to Stephen, who seethed with rage, clenching his fists at his sides. Perhaps if they could just get out of this festival grounds, they could escape the wrath that was undeniably brewing. "No, I want to stand my ground," she replied firmly. Her eyes, once full of a distant fear, now glimmered with the spark of a newly discovered power. "I'm tired of running. I won't let him intimidate me anymore." With uncertainty gripping him, Jake assessed the crowd. They had rallied behind her, each face alight with solidarity, but how far could that protection stretch against Stephen? He noticed a few friends pushing their way toward the front, expressions of determination plastered on their faces. This moment could change everything, not just for her but for the entire family. "Mom, please," he pleaded, but she squeezed his hand tighter. "Look, Jake," she said softly. "I need to do this for me and for you. If I back down now, what message does that send? I can't let this be how I live anymore." The sincerity in her voice melted some of Jake's apprehension. She was finding her voice after years of silence, and it took his breath away. But as the sirens drew nearer, his protective instincts kicked in. They had to come up with a plan. Just then, Stephen stepped forward, his shadow looming over them like a thundercloud. "You think you're free? You'll never escape me," he hissed, voice dripping with malice. "I'll make sure of it." Before Jake could react, a figure suddenly darted between them, their neighbor, Mrs. Collins, who had witnessed the entire exchange. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice filled with authority. "You don't control her anymore, Stephen. There are more of us than you realize," Jake added, feeling empowered by the unity surrounding them. The crowd roared again, standing shoulder to shoulder, ready to defend the woman who had just claimed her freedom. Suddenly, the sirens stopped, and the reality of the confrontation settled around them like a heavy fog. Jake's heart thudded in his chest, and a gnawing fear gripped him. Would the police support them, or would they side with Stephen, believing his twisted version of events? With a single look from his mother, they both knew they had to hold their ground. Jake's pulse raced as he wondered, what if this was the moment everything changed? The faces in the crowd reminded him that courage didn't have to be faced alone, but would it be enough? Just then, the sound of heavy boots echoed as police officers emerged from their vehicles, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. Would they hear the truth in his mom's voice, or would fear overwhelm the possibility of change? As the officers approached, Jake clasped his mother's hand, her strength grounding him amidst the chaos. There was no turning back now. It was time to see if the truth could light up the darkness and set them both free, or if they were destined to continue this fight. The moment hung in the air, crackling with potential, uncertainty stretching between them. Would this fight for freedom finally yield the happiness they had long been denied? As the officers' eyes fell on them, a new chapter was about to be written, one they never saw coming. What fate awaited them? As the officers stepped closer, Jake's heart raced. Each uniformed figure reminded him that their fates hung in a delicate balance. He felt a rush of determination surge through him, a defiance that overshadowed the fear brewing in his chest. He would stand by his mother, no matter what. Everything's fine here. Stephen's voice cut through the air, sauntering toward the officers as if he were the authority. Just a misunderstanding. She's upset, but I can handle it. Can you? Jake shot back, voice tinged with anger. This is about her freedom, not your control. The crowd murmured in support, a wave of solidarity swelling around them. The officers exchanged glances, taking in the altercation the fear on his mother's face in stark contrast to the anger fueling Stephen. One of the officers, a woman with a kind face, stepped forward, her eyes locking onto Jake's mother. "Ma'am, would you like to speak to us?" His mother held her ground, determination shining in her eyes. I need to share my truth." The officer nodded, signaling her partners to remain on alert. "Let us walk over here. No need for this to escalate further." As they moved to the side, Jake felt a tightening in his chest. "Mom, I'm right here," he whispered, reassuringly squeezing her hand. With the chaos fading to a dull backtrack, she straightened her shoulders, drawing strength from the community enveloping them. "I won't run anymore," she breathed out, and with that proclamation, the last threads of doubt began to unravel. The officer listened intently as she recounted the years of neglect, the fear she had lived under Stephen's looming shadow, and her long-suppressed desire for freedom. Each confession poured out like cracked earth thirsting for rain. Her voice trembled, but it grew firm, the memories untangling themselves and transforming into narratives that demanded recognition. "Jake's right," she finally added, looking directly at the officers. "I want to reclaim my life. I want to leave him behind. I'm done pretending this is happiness." The officer nodded, a flicker of admiration in her gaze. "You have every right to pursue happiness. That's what we're all here for." As the dust settled, Stephen's irritation morphed into outrage, disbelief shrouding his expressions. "You're making a huge mistake," he bellowed. "You think this crowd will protect you? You're no one without me." But the crowd surged forward, a jagged wave of strength and unity brushing him aside. "She doesn't need you," someone shouted, lifting the roar of support higher, their numbers multiplying into an unbreakable barrier. Jake could feel the tide of emotion, the energy buzzing. As if acknowledging the struggle they had all witnessed, the officer turned back to Stephen. "If she wishes to press charges, we'll ensure her protection. You need to leave now." The authority in the officer's voice commanded respect as they formed a barricade between Stephen and Jake's mother, safeguarding her newfound resolve. The festival lights flickered above them, illuminating faces filled with relief and exhilaration. Caught in a web of despair, Stephen scowled, sensing the loss of control. "You'll regret this," he spat, before walking away, defeated and unable to comprehend the shifting tides. The crowd erupted in applause, lifting their spirits like a garden springing back to life. Jake's heart swelled at the sight of his mother, tears spilling down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of liberation. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered, turning to embrace him. "We did this together," Jake replied, his voice filled with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. "You're finally free." Surrounded by friends, neighbors, and community, they stood together, no longer two lost souls but a family redefining love in more profound ways. A sense of victory washed over Jake. They had faced the storm and emerged from the shadows, ready to write a new chapter. He glanced at his mother, her smile brightening under the festival lights, reminding him of the joy she once carried. "We can dance again, Mom. Just like the old days." As laughter filled the air and music began to play, Jake pulled her into a gentle sway beneath the stars, the night thick with promise. They danced freely, stepping into an embrace of hope, healing, and newfound connection, one that shone brighter than ever above them. "Together," she murmured, and Jake nodded, feeling joy unfurl inside him. This was their beginning. "Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and let the world know how powerful this journey is. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending, we want to hear from you. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this life-changing transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.